All right, we are in the chicken house at the 93rd Annual Putnam County Fair. I am so excited to be here. You know, the chicken house means so much to me. I've been taking over the chicken house duties for about 2 years now, and I'm really excited for all the new renovations. And the chicken house has such an outreach on the community that I didn't expect it to have. There's so many young kids that come to the fair, and they come for the chickens, whether they know about agriculture or not, and they're just excited to be here and excited to see all the animals. So I'm really happy that it has that kind of impact on the community. Some really great sustainable products and things you can do to raise chickens. One of them being, obviously, people have chickens that have eggs. So feeding a really good, nutritious, wholesome food. We feed the chickens here ourselves, and we really make sure nutrition and water is on the forefront of the animal care at the chicken house. So one thing that we try and make sure is that they're always fed and watered. Another thing to have chickens, you know, on a sustainable level would to be let them free ranging. And free ranging is where you have a chicken and it has a coop, but they're getting to stay outside and eat the grass. And that has so many healthy benefits for the chicken. If you have never seen a real chicken egg made out of a backyard, if you crack open a store-bought egg, it is, you know, yellow and dull. And if you crack open a backyard chicken egg, in the bowl, it is, you know, raised up. It's super fabulous. It's so deep orange. And a lot of people, you know, are so surprised. They think something's wrong with the egg, but that is just so much more nutritious and better for you, and they're free if you have the chicken. So it's just a win-win. And, you know, at the chicken house, we're really trying to teach people about that level of, you know, expertise growing chickens. It's not hard to have a chicken, and it's so rewarding. So chickens, everyone asks the question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Obviously the chicken lays the egg, and one thing that's a misconception, a female chicken will lay an egg without a rooster. It just takes the rooster to fertilize the egg. So a lot of people, you know, don't know that or maybe be surprised by that. So that is something really fun I teach people. Also another thing, a chicken's lifespan is similar to any other farmyard animal besides a horse or a cow. All small livestock have a shorter lifespan. A chicken is usually typically 5 to 7 years old before it, you know, passes away, but sometimes it can live to 11. I had someone talking to me today at the chicken house, and they were like, we just had our favorite hen pass away today, and she was 11 years old, but she lived a really full and healthy life. And that sometimes varies. If they're inside in a cage 24/7, they may have a shorter life, but if they're well loved and they're outside and they get to run around, it can be longer. Some misconceptions in the poultry industry I always let newcomers to is, first off, read your labels. When you're buying eggs in the store and it says free range, non-GMO, all those wonderful things that people are really trying to buy for these days, make sure you read and maybe even look into the company. A lot of times if the egg says it's free range and it's in a commercial store, that means the chicken is on the ground in a warehouse. That doesn't mean it's in a, you know, an open pasture with 10 other friends and they're just frolicking around. Usually that means like 10 to 1,500 chickens in a warehouse on the ground, instead of usually in the industry it's going to be in a cage where they'll be on a wire bottom. So that's one thing I always tell people. And also myself being in the exhibition poultry industry, a lot of people get confused with, why does this chicken look smaller or things like that. You know, steroids are a huge item in today's society, especially involved with agriculture. So one thing that the chicken house, a lot of people have, this is backyard birds. So these birds are coming in, being raised in the grass, you know, a lot healthier feed than if they were in, and mostly because at an industrial standpoint, the chicken is being fed a lot of steroids and a lot of hormones in the feed. And the chickens at the fair may not look like the idyllic picture chicken because they are being raised on grass with worms and bugs and all kinds of great things. In Tennessee, the poultry industry has such a huge impact on our community. And one thing that I've learned going into an ag major in college, the poultry industry is the #1 hiring rate for newcomers out of college looking for a job. I was at the University of Arkansas recently talking to some people, and one thing I learned was that if they are a poultry major, it is a 98% hiring rate to come out of college and get placed in a job in the poultry industry. And one thing that's really great about Tennessee is that poultry has such a big impact on our community and economic standpoint, and poultry has a $5 billion input into our economic stability as a state. So we're in the South, and chickens are a really big aspect of living in an agricultural state. But that's one thing people are really surprised about, is chicken is the largest commodity. Everyone eats hamburgers and hot dogs and things like that, but everyone also eats 10 times more eggs than they would do a hamburger. So poultry has such a huge impact, and I think if we had any loss in the poultry industry to the state, that would be such a big thing people would really notice that they may never have before. To differ from what people believe, a broiler bird and an egg layer bird are both industry standards in raising chickens, but there are big two differences. A broiler bird is going to be more of a rounder shape with big breasts, and that's what you're going to eat, and that's what's going to be cellophane wrapped in the store. An egg layer bird is obviously going to produce your eggs, but if you see them side by side, an egg layer bird is very lean and thin, and the industry standard for an egg layer is a white leghorn, and they can lay up to 300 eggs a year. So usually, like everyone else, animals have to have breaks. So 300 eggs a year, there's 365 days in a year. That's almost an egg every day with very little breaks, and that is just a powerhouse of laying eggs. And also, our state ranks 14th nationally in the United States of America for raising broiler birds. So we are a really large supplier of meat birds to the entire country. And when you pass those chicken houses and chicken warehouses, you know, in these open fields, and you see the big vents and the fans, that's where these chickens are living, and then they're going to be brought out into the community or into the stores and sold at a market value. So with taking over the chicken house the past 2 years, I have had a lot of bumps in the road to get to this point where it looks so beautiful now. One of them being chickens are messy, and there is a lot of cleaning involved with getting this chicken house ready. I take hours and countless days with a lot of help from volunteers on the Junior Fair Board to get this place looking like it does. And this is not just a 1 week, you know, get in here, throw the chickens in here, and we're out. This is a month-long process of getting the birds prepared to come into the show. So in the exhibition poultry circuit, these birds aren't usually just going to get yanked out of their chicken coop and thrown into a cage. There's a process that has to be taken to get the bird to showing standards. So obviously the genetics is a part, but also when you're at a fair, you're going to want to wash your chicken and, you know, make sure it doesn't have bugs on it and get its legs clean and do a lot of these processes so that it looks really nice. Part of the judging process at a chicken show is conformation is one of them, which is based on genetics, but also how they're kept up and how they're raised, and if they're in good standing order as far as their feathers. Are they intact? Are they clean? And that's one thing people are surprised about. You know, usually they would just think, well, there's chickens in a cage, they brought them in here from their coop, but there's a long process of preparation before the chicken gets to be put here and judged. And really, a blue ribbon winning chicken has all the components of good genetics, well-kept feathers, good housekeeping, making sure they're fed well, and, you know, all these components together is going to make your chicken have a winner. One super fun thing about the judging process at the fair is that we have multi-dimensional layers of ribbons here at the fair, and we really would love for you to come see it for yourself. So when you walk into the chicken house, there's going to be the smaller ribbons, and that's just first, second, and third place on your bottom tier. All the first place birds are then judged against each other for the champion and reserve champion of the show, and that's divided by their classes of what chicken is in each class. And then we have a best of show, and one fair-specific award that we have is the President's Award. And our president, John Allen, comes down to the chicken house. He walks around with me, and this is a self-picked by John bird that he thinks is either the most beautiful or the one that he really connects with the most. And that winner, along with all the other awards having premiums, the President's Award comes with a $25 check. And that just really supports people to bring chickens. The President's Award is not about necessarily having the best show bird, but also really encouraging exhibitors to continue, you know, furthering their involvement in agriculture and in the chicken house.